Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the Beast Mode Sales Training. This is going to be the first video that we've published. My name is Ryan Stewart. I am the founder of Beast Mode Sales, Wellness Water Company, Wellness Air Company, and a couple other small ventures. And Wellness Water Company is my current baby. It's my biggest life project, so to speak, at least in the world of business. And I have decided after having over 10,000 one-on-one consultations in 28 years, and I've met with people from all over the world. I've sold different types of products and services. As Dr. Stephen Covey says, I've had the opportunity to sharpen the saw, so sharpen the saw a lot. And I'm taking that knowledge that I've learned and the experience that I have, and I'm packaging it up and delivering it here via Beast Mode Sales. So our goal here is to help great salespeople become even greater. If you're average as a salesperson, you'll get better, no doubt about it. You can also become great as well. So if you have the ability to communicate effectively with another human being and carry on a decent human conversation, then you can be the best salesperson in the world. You just need to know how to have that conversation. And my goal is to teach you how to have that conversation in the right format, the right way. And what you'll find is that it's actually a lot easier than probably the way that you've been going about sales. There's a lot of sales training out there, a lot of different viewpoints, and I've seen most of them, I think. I've studied most of them, and I have come to the conclusion that at the end of the day, it is simply a conversation with two human beings. It's just a matter of knowing how to have that. So I'm going to do my best to teach that. I have a few team members on the call, a few people from Wellness Water Company, just to kind of help out as an audience to ask questions so that we're interactive, because moving forward, this is going to be an open, live, like fully transparent live sales training that's going to be ongoing on a weekly basis for anybody that wants to plug in, and they'll be able to join the Zoom meeting live, and they'll be able to interact live. So hopefully I can do a little bit of mentoring as well. But I'll do the best I can. That's all I can promise. And if you're looking for a polished type of format, probably not going to see it here. I'm sure we'll tighten things up a bit as the marketing team works on things. But it's not important to me that I look polished or that our background or where I'm doing this video from looks polished. What's important to me is delivering the content. And I think that the content is what's most valuable to you, hopefully. So here we go. Without further ado, I'm going to play a recent consultation that I did. I specifically took this appointment uh, to create this particular video because our call center, actually our lead tech, Katina, at our call center reached out to me and said, Ryan, there is a gentleman that seems to be very knowledgeable about water filtration, and he had requested to speak to the most knowledgeable person in the company. And I thought about, asking you, and of course I agreed, and we had a great consultation. It turns out he knows a lot about water filtration, which is great because it made it a really vibrant, active conversation. It also made it a great training tool for our salespeople at Wellness Water Company to learn more about our products and services and the whys behind everything. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and I will stop intermittently, ask for questions. So if you have any questions along the way, please just make a note, and then as soon as I get to a stopping point, I'll ask, are there any questions? I do want to get all questions answered that I possibly can. When we start having a lot of people on the Zoom meeting, obviously I may not be able to get to every question, but usually if one person asks a question, it's something that a lot of other people want to know about as well. So by answering certain questions, I can usually cover most of the gambit. So here we go. And enjoy. Sit back and enjoy.
Hello. Hi, Ryan. Can you hear me? You're muted.
Hey Jake, how you doing?
Okay. How are you?
Thanks so much, man. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. By the way, for the record, I do have consent from Jake. After our consultation, it went really well, and we hit it off. We actually ended up developing a little bit of a personal relationship since then on other things, health related. But he agreed to let me use this consultation, which was very generous of him. The other thing that I'll say is that when I did this consultation, I was pretty exhausted. So you're going to see a version of me that is probably half as dynamic as I normally would be. But that worked out good in this particular situation because Jake had a lot of energy. So he was able to help carry the energy through the consultation.
No worries. How's your day going?
It's going great. And you?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Middle of the workday. It's been a busy one just because it's a shorter week with the holiday. But we're traveling a little bit tomorrow, so just trying to get some stuff done before then.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, that's not a virtual backdrop, is it?
No, this is my. Currently, we live in San Francisco, but we're moving to Heber City. So, but this is my old Victorian apartment here.
It's gorgeous. I see the bay window. Yeah, yeah, I can almost envision it from the front, from the street.
Yeah, it's a beauty for sure. It's stood the test of time, and it's definitely served us well for the last 6 years. But we were ready for a little bit more space.
I understand completely. Yeah. So tell me what's going on. You guys are moving to Utah, or are you?
Yeah, we're moving to we're building we're working with Fieldstone in Heber City. We're at the crossings, so they're in it's a spec home. They're gonna start the build soon, probably move there early next year, but we're finalizing a lot of the construction details, and they were offering a water softener, which in our opinion was overpriced and was didn't seem like a great choice. So been reaching out to a few folks in the Utah area just to get some perspective on some of our concerns in terms of the water quality of the Heber City based on what we're seeing in the report, and specifically what we want to make sure we filter out. I think mostly we already have an undersink RO filter that we'll probably bring with us that candidly is from Connecticut, their K5 filter undersink, but we're looking for a good solution that is both softener, because we know there's a lot of hard water, but also that goes above and beyond that if possible, because there are a lot of volatile compounds that we are seeing in the water report, things like chloroform and the TTH, whatever, like a lot of the chlorine byproducts that in our research, well, first of all, my lungs are very sensitive, so heating those up in the shower, we want to avoid inhaling that. It is our biggest concern. We were thinking about a whole home RO, but I feel like it's just vastly inefficient and like just not good from like a storage and a flow perspective. And we did do some research online and saw that potentially a catalytic carbon filter specifically could filter out some of that stuff. So, anyways, we're definitely not experts, but we are willing to invest with a company who hopefully can support us in our health needs when it comes to water. And so we're hoping that could be you guys.
Wow. Well, Jake, we're hiring. I mean, wow. Thank you, man. I mean, that was so clear and so spot on, actually. You've obviously done your research. Yeah, you may not be an expert, but I'm gonna tell you, you know more than 99% of people I meet with. So
I appreciate it.
yeah. So good for you. Yeah, so let me just show you kind of well, let me just tell you a little bit about us for
Yeah, sure.
presentation. So we've been in business since 1984. My uncle Julio founded the company. It was called Uli Waters, and then eventually he merged with a guy who owned a wellness store and ended up taking the Wellness Water Company. And then he operated under this brand for a few years, and then I got involved in 2016. I was in corporate America for 20 years, 20 some odd years, and I took over and took the company from Louisiana in the 43 states in 9 years.
Wow.
In Hawaii, yeah. So it's been crazy. I can't tell you it hasn't been crazy, but we've had tremendous growth. Our brand is becoming more and more recognized. The whole thing my uncle wanted was healthy water. Like
Yeah.
he didn't just want water that was free of toxins. He wanted it to be healthy. So he
Yep.
started remineralizing water back in 1984, and my parents were like his first, handful of customers. My grandfather was his first or second customer, and my grandmother raved about the Huli water. And I mean, this has been going on for decades. He does the water filtration for Cafe Du Monde and Pascal Manales and Galantoise and Brennan's and the Hilton Riverside. Like New Orleans, if anybody needs good water, they just call Julio. Like they just know. So
Love that.
2016, I basically kind of took over operations and I formed a new LLC. And Julio wanted to get out of the residential side, so I bought him out, and he started Torres Water. And then from there, we've had all this growth. So the bottom line is, we are technically quickly becoming a nationwide company, but we still treat our customers like family. So you call in, you get a human being, and you get people that actually care about your health and wellness, not just selling you a water system. So
Yeah, I feel
I mean,
that.
we're at the point now, so even since I've been here, where we have not just referrals now starting to come in regular, but also repeat customers that are either buying a new house, leaving the one they have, getting a new one, or they're transferring her to whatever. So
Yeah.
it's been good.
That's awesome.
We're
Yeah,
very
and I have to say, I think this is going to be. I'm optimistic just because I feel like I'm very into wellness. So just even the brand resonates, but also like I understand. For me, I've overcome a lot of health challenges and difficulties in my life, ranging the gamut of things, and I'm very proud of where I am. But one of the biggest, I know how critical water is to that equation, and it has been hard for me to be in San Francisco and not owning this apartment and having to shower in water that's less than ideal. So you make concessions, and truly, like one of the biggest things driving us moving and making.
Hey, Dad, I think your presentation is muted.
Yeah, we lost audio, Ryan.
Will. So I don't want to set the bar.
I'm really glad you guys said that, because the audio that I've had is supposed to be coming out of my direct from the computer, not from my microphone. So has the audio been difficult to hear?
No.
No, just cut out right there.
All right, I'm going to reshare this in a different way. Let's see. Uh, Let me pause the recording.
Has been hard for me to be in San Francisco and not owning this apartment and having to shower in water that's less than ideal. So you make concessions, and truly, like one of the biggest things driving us moving and making an investment in a house, moving out to Utah, Heber City, is just having ownership of the property. And water is probably a top three priority for us. And honestly, every other company we've spoken with, you're right, it's been more transactional. Like I didn't feel like they really got like more of the health aspect. They're like, no, that water is good. I'm like, no, it's not good. And like they're like, no, well, this filter will work. And I'm like, I don't think it will. So I don't want to set the bar too high for you, but I feel like at least at its core, I really resonate with your mission and your vision and your brand and everything you're doing. For example, I went to school in LA. I was drinking alkaline water before anyone knew about it. I was drinking fulvic water, right? I was doing like water for me has been a big part of my health journey. And so if that could be part of our house, there is no amount of money we would not spend in order to do that. Just to be honest.
I understand. I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Dad, you're muted.
Thank you, buddy. So what he just told me basically was that this sale was mine to lose. Like he said, look, I've been looking around, done a lot of research. I know a lot. Don't mean to set the bar too high, but reality is, me and my spouse are willing to pay whatever it takes to have the best quality water in our home. So, at that point, probably a lot of newer salespeople would feel an emotional response of, wow, like, oh, this is amazing, whatever. When you've done this over 10,000 times, it doesn't affect you at all. There was no, there was no part of me that was emotionally impacted by that, but I did make note of it cognitively. And I realized that, this guy was looking for a professional consultation with somebody that knew what they were talking about. And so far, he hadn't seen that. He had seen other things that weren't very impressive to him. And obviously, the wellness aspect of it's very important to him. I didn't ask him what he meant by health issues, but he obviously had some challenges, health challenges that he's overcome, and clearly his vitality is great. And the other thing that's very clear about him right off the bat is he's highly intelligent and he's a great communicator. And he lives in San Francisco, and that is probably one of the most expensive places to live. He's relocating to Utah, partly to get away from that cost of living. But anybody that lives in the greater San Francisco area that's this educated is most likely working somewhere in Silicon Valley, or they're in it. They're very intelligent people. Let's just say that there's not a whole lot of dumb people in that area. It is what it is. So this is a great opportunity to have a consultation with someone like him, and it makes it easy to train on. So, uh, bottom line, no matter what a person says, whether they say, you know what, hey, we're ready to make a decision to purchase right now, it's like real tempting to just skip a bunch of stuff. But 90% of the time, it's better to actually take a breath and slow things down and go back to the consultation. So the way that we have the consultation laid out for Wellness Water Company is the same way that I would lay it out for any other company, no matter what type of product you're selling. So these principles in this process will work for any sales product or service. So I'm just going to kind of take us through that progression. You'll notice in my initial engagement with him, I was pretty flat. I wasn't overly emotionally high, wasn't overly low. I was kind of like around a 5 or a 6 on the emotional tone scale. But it wasn't a -5 or 6, it was a positive. But when you look at emotional tone scale, 1 through 10, if you're not familiar with what that is, you can chat GPT it or grok it or Google it, whatever. But there's a thing called an emotional tone scale. And basically, it looks at people at what is their energetic frequency, what is their tone, their underlying demeanor, their tone when you meet them. Is it one, which is basically apathy, like one step away from death? Or is it 10, which is ecstasy and bliss, state of samadhi, like just the greatest energetic frequency a person could possibly reach, okay, on this planet. Most people, when you meet most people, they're typically going to be somewhere between, I would say, mm, maybe 3 and 6. So probably an average around 5 flat. Sometimes you meet people and they're, hey, how's it going? Bop, 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 bop. You meet other people that are like, hey, how's it going? And you're like, and it's like pulling teeth, right? Like trying to have a conversation with them. It's like pulling teeth. Uh, the important thing to know about the emotional tone scale, two things. Number one, when people make decisions to purchase something, they're typically at a level 8, 9, or 10. So they're at a higher energetic frequency. So the goal is not just to educate them, but also to help them move into a higher state of energetic frequency. And the way that you do that is contrarian to what most people would think. You would think that, hey, if I just stay super positive, that this person will all of a sudden start being super positive with me. And it's actually the opposite. If someone is in a negative, especially if they're already in a negative or flat space, so they might be at level 3 or 5 or whatever. If I identify that somebody is really flat, like at 5, I'm going to pull back my energy and I'm going to be a little bit lower than they are. So, as an example, let's say I ask somebody, how you doing? And they say something like, well, it's another day above ground. With that type of person, the best thing I can do is go a little bit more negative than that. So my reply might be, I know, man, God, some days it just doesn't even feel like worth living anymore, It's just crazy. what happens is in human communication, most people are completely unaware of this because most people don't study human communication. Most people stop studying everything after school, by the way, which is it's a shame because there's so much to know, and the more people know, the more exciting life becomes. So hopefully with AI, that's going to change a bit. But if somebody greets me that way and I respond in that way, typically the next thing that person is going to say is a little more positive than what they said at first. So let's back up here. Hey, how's it going, John? Oh, man, another day above ground. Oh man, yeah, I hear you, man. I tell you, sometimes it just feels like life is it's just not even worth living anymore. That person 90% of the time is going to say, "Oh yeah, yeah, look, I didn't mean it like that. Like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I mean, I mean, I get what you're saying, but no, it's not like that. Like, I'm good. I'm good." So you're getting them to take accountability for their emotional state without them even realizing it. So they're getting honest with themselves now because you just elicited, it's called elicitation. You just elicited a response from him. This is really high level stuff with elicitation. I'm no expert at elicitation. If you want to become an expert at that, there are other people that are better qualified to teach it. I will plug Chase Hughes, for example, or Jefferson Fisher. These guys are amazing. On other subjects, Jordan Peterson, probably my all-time favorite guy. He understands human psychology. At the end of the day, if you want to become a master at sales, you have to become a master at understanding human psychology. So this is what I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach both the technical side and I'm going to teach both the non-technical side, which is really the human side. And that's most important. The technical stuff really is far less important than the emotional side where you're connecting human to human. So let's keep going here. Does anybody have any questions before we move on?
I noticed that he already had a lot of technical knowledge about water filters and everything like that, what he was actually looking for. Is there going to be a different approach with someone who doesn't know anything? Or, I mean, I guess with wellness, you're not going to have a whole lot of people who don't know anything about it because they seek us out. But is there a different approach for someone who's less knowledgeable and maybe more resistant?
So it's a great question, Dalton. So the approach essentially, the process, the sales process is going to remain the same. So the step-by-step process that the presentation, the slide presentation takes you through the appropriate progression of steps that need to happen in order for a person to go from just meeting you, a stranger, to spending, let's say, 15,000 or more with you in a matter of an hour or an hour and a half. So in order for people to do that, they have to know, like, and trust. They have to know you, like you, and trust you. So you literally have like a very short period of time to accomplish all of those things. So short answer to your question is what will change slightly is the way I engage that person, right? The goal for me is always to leave a person, and this goal, by the way, is much larger than making a sale, which is really important. My purpose, my goal is to number one, recognize that human beings' humanity. So before I get on a consultation, I need to have a moment, unless it's just natural and automatic and it's an ingrained habit, I need to have something to prompt me, a moment before I engage with that prospect, something in me that says, I'm not about to meet a person, an outside like entity, right? I'm about to meet a sentient being inhabiting a human body, having a human life, and probably having a lot of the same human emotions and human experiences that I have. And I know that life can be very challenging, and that automatically builds compassion and understanding and acceptance. So to take it really deep, I'm actually looking at a reflection of myself when I meet people. That's way down the rabbit trail, but when you get to that point, you have to ask yourself, if I'm meeting myself right now, how would I like myself to treat me? And that is a very jarring thought, okay? But you hear people all the time say, we are one love. Well, they either mean that or they don't. Like, are we one? I mean, it's kind of easy to imagine, I guess, that we're all coming from the same source because we're all human and we seem to have similar body types and anatomy. And we're all coming from, we got to be, whoever's creating humans, however that happens, it looks like there's intelligent design there. And there has to be, uh, consistency. And so if we all emanate from the same source, from the same creative intelligence, then technically we're all connected to that same intelligence. Maybe you call it like God or the Godhead or source or infinite intelligence or higher intelligence or higher self or um, uh, uh, higher power. So you hear all these different ways of describing what I view as just our origin point, where it was that we originated from. And so this concept that we're all one, well, you either mean it or you don't. If I truly believe that we're all one, then when I meet with you, I'm meeting with myself. I'm just a different manifestation than I am in this body. So I'm actually looking at a reflection of me. It looks different and it seems separate, but we're actually interconnected energetically. Once you realize that, you realize the profound impact that you have on people around you and the world that you walk through, because your energetic frequency can affect everyone around you. So when we're in a negative state, it's going to emit negativity around us. It's also going to attract negativity. When we're in a positive state, it's going to emit positive energy and we're going to attract positive energy back. So what we put out into the world is what we get back, because the world is simply a reflection of our observation. We all see the world in a certain way, and every one of us can see things differently. We can look at the same object, the same thing, have a totally different experience. So my viewpoint is everything in the world is manifesting from the same original source that provides the energy to animate the human body, the energy for plants to grow, the energy for animals to exist. And I believe that when we look at that and we realize, wow, you know, this person might be acting crazy right now, but deep down inside, they're connected to the same energy source, the same origin as me. That makes us of equal value. And even though I don't like the way they're acting right now, I need to just at least recognize that they're human and maybe they're going through something that has nothing to do with me that could be very difficult. So rather than judge that person and start trying to put them in a box and put a label on them, why don't we just have a conversation with them? And why don't we ask ourselves, is there anything I can do to help this person? Because if that person is me, when I help that person, I'm helping myself. The law of reciprocity, it's just like a mirror. And if you don't think this stuff is real, if you think it's juju, give it a try. Make your mind up to go out today and smile. Just do nothing different, just smile. Just make sure when you walk past everybody, you look at them and you smile. That's all you have to do. And see if you don't feel better at the end of the day. And then ask yourself, how many smiles did you get back? How many conversations did you engage in that you wouldn't have if you hadn't been smiling when you passed that person? How was your day enhanced just by smiling? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's like magic. So the first step is recognizing I'm meeting with a human being, and that the second thing is, although I have a meeting with them that appears to be a meeting to help them purchase a home water system, that is not my primary purpose. My primary purpose is always to see how I can help someone and how I can leave a person feeling better about themselves than before they met me. So I am going to be looking for opportunities to edify the prospect any chance I get, to validate them, to reinforce what they believe is true, if it is true. If it's not true, I'll carefully give them an alternative and allow them to make their own judgment and their own decision. I'll kind of lead the horse to water. Can't force them to drink, but you can lead them to the water. So this is all about having a conversation and walking someone down a yellow brick road that leads to the point that they're able to confidently make a decision to buy. If you're a sales consultant for any company, your primary responsibility is to help people make a decision to buy. That's it. We all need help making a decision to buy. There may be some things that we don't need help with, but anything of consequence, of financial consequence, we're usually looking for help. And sometimes we start out looking for self-help. So we go on Google, we go on ChatGPT, we learn everything we can about something. But sometimes it's more than we can learn, or it's more than we can fully understand. And in that situation, we reach out to a professional or someone that specializes in whatever it is that we need done or that we're working on, and we get their assistance. So very few people that walk into a car dealership, for example, most people say, oh, I don't like car sales. I don't like car salesmen, whatever. I get that. And I know the exact reason why. But the truth is, you kind of do need them. You may not need every one of them, but you need someone of them that knows a lot about those vehicles, because you're about to spend, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 or 1,000 or more on a vehicle. Like, you want to know what am I purchasing here, And the more that salesperson can tell you about that vehicle, the more they can explain as far as the little intricacies in it, things that people don't even think about, like, hey, I know you really like this sports car because of the way it looks. And let me tell you, one of the things I was most impressed with is their crumple zone technology. They actually created these sophisticated crumple zone areas that allow hard metals to basically crumple and absorb the impact of a head-on collision. And so the car has a great ability to allow the front end to completely collapse through these crumple zones, so that by the time it hits the cabin where you're sitting, all of that kinetic energy has been displaced and it's going out and around the frame of the car. And people don't think about that, but that's something that's, this car is highly rated for. Again, now I'm touching on safety. It may not have even been something that person was thinking about, but what did it do? It made them appreciate that vehicle all that much more. And people actually appreciate things that they spend the most amount of money on. They do. If here's a quick example, now I'll get back to the consultation here. Let's say I am getting engaged. All right. I asked a gal to be my wife. Okay. And I've got to get a diamond ring, an engagement ring. All right. And I can get a diamond, a 1 carat diamond from Walmart for $1,000, or I can go to a retail store like, let's just say, Zales or any company. And this is all, I'm not saying anything specific about Zales here or any other company. This is just fictional description here for a disclaimer. But let's say I go to Zales and I find a 1 carat diamond and it's $10,000. Now, what is the difference in those two diamonds? They're both 1 carat, and to the naked eye, they look the same. And the sets are the same. Let's just say they're both set in a platinum set ring or something. So everything's the same, but one's 1,000 and one's 10,000. Now, when you look under a microscope, you discover that that diamond that Zales has is a near flawless diamond. It's at whatever the rating system is, it's E whatever, F whatever the thing is, it's at the top. And that means it has very few inclusions or fractures. And the inclusion is like a carbon deposit inside of the diamond. And the naked eye doesn't pick up on them, but when you put them under a microscope, you can see all this stuff. And that diamond comes with a certification stating where the diamond, came from and what its current value is and what the specifications of it are. So they have an appraisal. It's called an appraisal. They give you an appraisal. It's a certified appraisal that basically says, this is what this diamond is worth. And that appraisal on a $10,000 diamond, it may end up being 12, 13, 14,000 right out of the gate, because uh, precious stones like diamonds have always kind of increased in value over the long term because they control the market. It's not that there's a limited supply. They have enough diamonds probably to supply the world for another 1,000 years. They're just locked away in bank vaults. They're controlling the market by controlling the supply. So they just let a little supply out at a time. They don't oversupply the market. That keeps prices stable, and it keeps these precious stones from, instead of depreciating, they start appreciating. So years later, that diamond will be worth double what it was when you purchased it. So knowing all of that, okay, in your mind, the one from Zales obviously has a lot more value. The one at Walmart's got all kinds of inclusions. It's got carbon deposits. It doesn't come with an appraisal. If it does come with an appraisal, it's probably only going to appraise for like maybe $1,500 or $2,000. Totally different value here. But the diamonds look the same. If you put them side by side, they look the same. Now, a person who's not really aware of this type of thing would say, well, I'm just going to get her the cheaper diamond and not tell her, you know? And when she asked me where I got it, I mean, I can't really be dishonest. I got to tell her. I mean, I don't know. Do I have to tell her I got it at Walmart? I don't know. I'll figure that out. Even if you don't tell her you got it from Walmart, even if you give her the diamond ring, you know, her friends who have jewelry, when they're out having dinner and they look at her diamond ring, no matter how small or big or pretty or not pretty it is, pretty much always going to say, oh, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful ring. And that woman, girl, however, hey, well, thank you for that. This is my engagement ring, and my soon-to-be husband got this for me. Oh, that's wonderful. How sweet. Where did you get it? Um, I don't remember exactly where he got it. Or if he did tell her, Um, believe it or not, he got it from Walmart. Yeah, no, surprised, right? I mean, look at that. That's a 1 carat. I was surprised, great deal. Okay. Here's another scenario. She's out with her friends, and one of her girlfriends says, oh my God, your ring, your engagement ring, it's so beautiful. Wow, where'd you get it? Well, you know, um, my soon-to-be husband, he got it from Zales. Yeah, Zales, really? Oh my God, their jewelry is so nice. It's so expensive though. Yeah, I don't know. I think he spent like $10,000 on it. I don't know. Holy cow! Wow, God, he must really love you, man. Congratulations. So, which diamond is more valuable? Which diamond does the person appreciate more? If the guy that bought the diamond is out and one of his um, fiance's friends comes up to him and says, hey, that's a beautiful ring you got your wife from Zales. Man, wow, good for you. Now you feel good about the investment. So this conditions the mind over time to value things that cost more money over things that cost less money. And I try to give this example, and hopefully it makes sense to people. So let's continue on. Are there any questions before I move on here?
I'm all good, Dad. I'm just watching.
Okay, great. So the bottom line is you you need to provide value. You need to give them enough value related to the quality of the product or service that you're offering that they feel confident that it is the best, and they know the reasons why and they understand them clearly. But they also need to know and like you. And that happens right out of the gate. That starts the moment before you get on the consultation. That starts the moment that you condition your mind to be prepared to engage that person with the right mindset. That I'm meeting with another sentient spiritual sentient being in a human body having a human experience, and I'm supposed to do whatever I can to help that person in their journey. Because their journey, the reason I'm meeting with them may have nothing to do with buying a water system. They may or may not get a water system, but they may have something else they're dealing with. And in conversation, it's not uncommon to get a little bit vulnerable, because the more vulnerable you can be, the more transparent you can be with someone, the more vulnerable and transparent they're able to be back to you. Once again, it's a reflection of what you're putting out. What you put out is what you get back. So along the way, they're going to know and trust you by you being vulnerable, and also by you being the expert. So once you establish, I'm a real person and I care about you, and I'm listening intently when you speak, and I'm trying to handle and discuss the things that are most important to you, so they like me out of the gate, especially if I can compliment something that I know about. Like, for instance, when we started this, I noticed that he had like an old Victorian style home, and I could tell it wasn't a virtual background. I could tell it was like his legitimate home. And when I made a comment about it, he lit up. Oh yeah, this is like, this was like and he told me later, this was like a dream for us to own one of these old Victorian homes here in downtown San Francisco. Like, this was, you know, like a dream, And now we're moving because we want to lower our cost of living, but living here has been amazing, and this house has been like the most exciting thing that's happened for us, right? So he's talking about something now that he really loves, which is bringing positive emotions to the surface. And it's also connecting us, because he knows that I understand the value of those types of homes. It can be the smallest thing, it can be anything, but you want to compliment them, edify them, validate them, listen to them, really listen. Try not to be thinking about what you're going to say next, because those things will automatically come if your demeanor is right and your mindset is right when you go into the appointment. So the appointment actually starts before the appointment starts. It starts with yourself. You have to condition yourself to go into that conversation with the right mindset. And this is, honestly, if you do nothing more than this, I really believe your sales would increase probably 20 to 30% right away. If you apply the process and the technical aspects of it, your sales can double. Just literally within a month or two or three, you can see your sales double if you'll apply what I'm going to teach you, and you'll have the right mindset, which I'll teach you that as well. Okay, so let's get started. No other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and get back to the consultation here. It's not the money, it's the principle of the matter and what your desired outcome is. And
Of money we would not spend.
so he's telling me right now that they'll spend any amount of money for the best possible solution, rather than get emotionally excited thinking, oh my gosh, I've got somebody that's going to buy and they don't care about the money and blah, blah, blah. What I'm focused on is why. Why is it they're willing to pay any amount of money? And I know in my head why it is. So now I'm going to tell him why that is. And that is going to connect with him at a very deep level, because he's going to understand that I understand his core underlying motivations for doing what he's doing, which is the most important thing for me to understand, because those things are different for everybody and they're different for every product or service. So I really need to be paying attention to what it is that's most important to them. One of the things, and I'll just say this, one of the questions that I like to ask out of the gate, and this is something that I've actually been playing around with and implementing and tweaking recently, okay, is asking that person after building a little rapport and a warm up. And rapport, by the way, is not what most people think it is. It's not about trying to find common areas. You shouldn't be trying to find anything. You should be listening. But if you can ask a person in the beginning of the consultation, after you have a little warm up with them, if you can say something like, listen, John, Cindy, I know way too much about water filtration, water quality, water chemistry. I honestly, one of my issues that I've discovered is I can get really way too long-winded, and I'm trying really hard not to do that. And I'm also trying not to give people information that doesn't really matter to them. So, would you mind me asking, and this is out of respect for your time, would you mind me asking if you could imagine the perfect outcome to this meeting today, what would it be? What would it be? If you could imagine the perfect outcome to this meeting, what would it be? It's a powerful question because it gives them the opportunity to really think deeply about why they're on the call, what outcome they're hoping to have, and most importantly, why they're hoping to have that outcome. So they're reminding themselves now, if this happens and this happens, then we're going to satisfy our core reason for doing this, which is, let's say, to protect their family from absorption of cancer-causing agents through the skin. Let's say that's their number one driver, okay? Whatever it is that they tell me, I'm going to listen intently. I'm going to let them finish. I'm going to take a breath and at least 3 seconds before I jump in and reply. And I'm going to then affirm. So let me back up a second. So I'm going to say, um, so they're going to tell me what's most important to them. I'm going to say, thank you very much for letting me know that. Now I know specifically what's most important to you and what I need to focus on. So, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to interrupt. Otherwise, let's get going here. And what it's done is it's number one, gotten them in touch with their core why they're calling. It's also simultaneously built trust because now they feel like I'm on their side. It's not the salesperson versus the prospect. Now it's the salesperson with the prospect trying to discover the best possible solution. And in the end, it really needs to be the prospect, quote, customer, needs to be the one that convinces themselves that it's the best possible thing they can do. So we need to help them get to that point where they can make that decision from within themselves. In order to do that, we have to build value. They have to know us, they have to like us and trust us. So this whole process will cover all of that and will create that entire dynamic, and your sales results will increase dramatically, dramatically. And it'll be a lot easier and you'll get a lot less burnout because you'll be approaching this from a completely different paradigm, one that has an overreaching arc that says what's most important to me in life is being a kind, loving, compassionate person who wants to help people. And with that type of mindset and that type of purpose, you can't fail. If someone doesn't buy, I don't even think about it. If somebody doesn't show up to an appointment, I'm happy about it. I'm like, oh, thank God, I've got so much other stuff I got to catch up on, because I know in my mind that if that person was supposed to buy a water system from me that day, they would have shown up to the appointment. So I didn't really lose anything. I just gained time to work on other projects. So when you've been in sales long enough, you start to see patterns and you start to realize that, hey, I may go a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months, maybe even 5 years before I make a sale, depending on what you're selling. I mean, if you're selling an aircraft carrier, it could take years before you complete that. But most things, you're probably going to have a sale within, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. You may have a dry spell, but when you look at it over the course of the entire year, you realize that, hey, I sold 1 out of every 4 presentations that I gave. I sold 1 out of every uh, uh, 4 consultations that I gave, or 4 customers that I met with, whatever. You see the patterns and you realize that I might have a bad month or two, but I always make up for it by the end of the year. Somehow magically things, all of a sudden you'll have a sale and then right behind that you'll have another sale. And the reason that that's so common for people to have a sale and quickly have another sale is because they're very relaxed. After they have the first sale, they breathe. They go, oh, wow, made some money. That's great. That feels great. And you know what? It's enough money to cover the rent. That's great. So they get on the next sales call. They're happy about what just happened. They're also a little bit more relieved than they were before they earned that extra money. And so now they have this demeanor that's like happy-go-lucky, and they care a lot less about whether or not that person buys. It's not nearly as important to them in that moment. And they end up making the sale because they're less focused on making the sale. That's why they make it. So here we go. Hopefully that makes sense.
In order to do that, just to be honest.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. It's not the money. It's the.
At its core, I really resonate with your mission and your vision and your brand and everything you're doing. For example, I went to school in LA. I was drinking alkaline water before anyone knew about it. I was drinking fulvic water, right? I was doing like, water for me has been a big part of my health journey. And so if that could be part of our house, there is no amount of money we would not spend in order to do that. Just to be honest.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. It's not the money. It's the principle of the matter and what your desired outcome is. And
yeah,
you know, that I believe we have exactly what you're looking for. I believe we have the perfect solution for you. I really do. Like you just described it to me. That's why I, said we're hiring. I mean, I could tell you'd be very overqualified for the job, but it really is. It's fascinating. Water chemistry is fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. I've even gotten into because we've been drinking RO water, and then we remineralize it with the Kinetico K5, which has been a good unit for us under the sink. But even still, it's like I know like it's still tap water, and it's still I know it's not like super structured. So I've gotten into like I was working with a natural spring in Oregon and getting their raw water shipped down that has that beautiful lattice structure if you were to look at it under a microscope, and like that felt so good, but it was a little bit cost prohibitive. So anyways, like I definitely have gone in deep with water, and I think like I love that this could potentially be a great solution for us. So I'm curious to hear more like what your vision is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the system does have an upflow with like what they call a vortex core. So the idea is to get the water moving and oxygenated. Now,
I love
yeah, I mean, some people would consider that mechanical water. I mean, with nature, really, it's like in streams flowing over rocks, right? It's just
the ionization of it over rocks.
Right,
I get it.
So
It's not going to be perfect. Someday, if we have $10 million, I'm sure it can be perfect. But we don't have that money yet.
right, or we could just move to one of those blue zones in the indigenous areas.
Yeah. Exactly.
Live off the grid, but be able to bathe and drink in perfectly alkaline water.
Yeah.
I just want to point out one thing here, something he said that I thought was interesting.
Hey,
It
you're
really,
muted, Dad.
can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Ryan.
Okay, thank you. So I want you to hear something this guy said, and this has to do with mindset, okay? This doesn't really have to do with this sale, but it's a really important distinction in mindset that really is going to determine ultimately whether or not you hit your goals, meet your expectations, and ultimately whether or not you live what you
Hey,
feel
I don't know if it's just me, but
best
I
life.
can't hear. So I don't know if you're muted or if that's just a
I
me
think
thing.
it's just you, B. Bree, can you confirm?
I can hear you just fine.
Where on the
Yes,
boat
I can still
though?
hear you, Ryan. I can also hear you, Benjamin. Can you hear me?
All right, B, what I would do is hop off, log back in. I'll look for you and readmit you, and it'll probably pick back up. It also could be that your headset picked up. The Bluetooth automatically picked up. So that happens.
I can hear now. I think that was me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. Yeah, that's all right. Happens to me all the time. Okay, so I'm going to back this up just a little bit. I want you to hear what he says here. Yeah, so
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, some people would consider that mechanical water. I mean, with nature, really, it's like in streams flowing over rocks. rocks, right? It's just
Yeah, the ionization of it over rocks.
right,
I get
right.
it.
So
It's not going to be perfect. Someday, if we have $10 million, I'm sure it can be perfect. But we don't have that money yet.
okay. So what he said was someday, and then someday $10 million, and then he said, but we don't have that money yet. Real flat, but we don't have that money yet. What does that imply to people? What does it imply to you? We don't have that money yet. It implies that he fully expects to have $10 million one day in his life, and maybe not so far away either. The difference between wanting to do something like that, like wanting to have a net worth of $10 million, and the difference in knowing that you're ultimately going to have a net worth of 10,000 or $10 million, they're totally different. Wanting and believing are just hope. That's just a hope. Knowing is compulsion, meaning I know this is going to happen, so I continue to move forward with the mindset that it will happen, which means no matter what happens in the middle is okay, because I know ultimately I'll get to that place. And what we discover along the way is it's not about working harder or longer hours or any of that. It's not about becoming smarter. It's not about becoming an expert at certain things. It's not about any of that. It's about being, not doing. It's about how you are being, how you are behaving. What is your demeanor? What energetic frequency are you putting out right now? And if you don't know much about energetic frequency or electromagnetism or quantum mechanics or any of that, I would encourage you to just maybe YouTube something like Rosicrucian or um, body's energetic vortex, and you can learn all about that. Okay, but it's measurable, and for most people, it's in a figure-8 vortex around the body, and most people emit it a foot or two or three out from themselves. People that are vibrating at a really high frequency can have energy that affects people 5, 10, 15 people around them. Some people can change an entire room's frequency when they walk in. That's where the power lies. The power lies in what and who you are, what you know at your core, not what you believe you are or what you believe other people think you are. It's just what you are. And so if we can get our hearts and our minds in coherence, where our heart says, I want to help that person, and the mind says, that's the best way to be thinking, boom, you're in the right frequency. And when you find yourself in that frequency, you get into a state that's called flow. Flow is when things happen without effort. Flow is kind of the modern day version or understanding of the principle of the Tao. And if you don't know the principle of the Tao, it comes from Taoism. There's a book that was written by a gentleman named Lao Tzu, Laotzu, Lao Tzu, and it's called um, what is the name of that book? I've got it right here. Tao Te Ching, the Tao Te Ching, okay, by Lao Tzu. All right, I highly recommend getting this book. Highly recommend it. This book is considered to be one of the most important books in ancient Buddhism, dating back for many, many years. I think he was 600 years before Christ, I think, is when this guy lived. But this book was eventually published with his writings. Very, very profound. And probably the most profound thing that he discusses in here is a concept called Wu Wei, spelled W-U-W-E-I, Wu Wei. Wu Wei means specifically action through non-action. Taking action through non-action, meaning me consciously deciding not to take action on something is an action in and of itself. me deciding not to take action in a specific area for a specific reason is an action that I'm taking. I'm taking the action of not taking action. And most people don't ever consider that that's an option. So they just feel like if something has to change, I have to act. I have to act upon it. I have to make it happen, right? It's up to me. If it's going to be, it's up to me. This is a mindset that will keep people broke their entire life, and it will keep people stressed out, and they will be slaves to their job. They will eventually hate their job. They will burn out, and they will literally be working just so they can retire. That's it. There's no other gratification. So once you realize that you can influence things energetically by allowing a higher power, which is the Tao is like source energy, by allowing that to come into your life without resistance, you start seeing things happening in your life that are remarkable, that are things that you can't just dismiss as coincidence. And you start to see people showing up in your life, showing up in your business that are critical for the success of the business or success of whatever it is you're working on in life. And you'll realize after working with those people for a while, gosh, if I had taken 100 years to try and figure this particular thing out, I would have never been able to figure it out properly. And this guy was able to do it in like 5 minutes. So, what was most important? Me trying to master something in a certain area, or me meeting the right person who had already mastered that and sharing my vision with that person? And if that person resonates with the vision of Wellness Water Company, which is solving America's water crisis, then I've just made a lasting relationship with a very gifted human being who now, hopefully, if it's right, if he feels in his heart it's right, he'll say, man, I was supposed to meet Ryan and I am supposed to help out with this mission. And now you have someone that's fully invested and all of a sudden they're an integral part of the company. And when you start seeing those people showing up all the time from different places randomly, and you're not even running ads, like you're not even like soliciting new hires, nothing. And all of a sudden you're getting introduced to certain people and you realize, oh my gosh, that guy could help us so much and she could help us so much. And God, she runs circles around those guys like, holy cow, like, then you realize it wasn't through my effort, me straining to go out and find those people. I didn't force that. I just knew in my heart, I had a knowing that Wellness Water Company was going to be a success from the very day that I conceived the idea. And never once have I ever doubted that Wellness Water Company would be a success. I've never doubted it. I've had moments where I looked at the operating account and just said, wow, this is brutal. And I really don't like where we are right now. I don't feel comfortable with our prudent reserve. But then I tell myself, this is just how it is. This is just when you're building a company and you're bootstrapping it and you don't have millions of dollars of investment capital, you just have what you put into it and then blood, sweat, and tears. Like, that's what you do. You stick to the vision and you go through good times and bad times. When COVID hit, most companies suffered. We grew. We grew because we adapted quickly. And that, by the way, wasn't me being like smart or even anybody. It was random. It was like the universe did it. It was Thanksgiving. It was the day before Thanksgiving, so it was a Wednesday. And this was 10 years ago. No, still, sorry, about 9 years and 3 months to be exact. All of a sudden, I get a call from my assistant, Katina, at the time. And she says, Mr. Ryan, somebody called in from Washington the state of Washington. Now, at the time, we had only expanded like into Alabama. Let's see, we expanded from New Orleans into Northwest Florida, then Alabama, then we started creeping over down into Central Florida, and we were doing a little bit in Mississippi, and we're doing a little bit in Texas, like in the Houston area. And my vision from day one was to build a nationwide company. I never got involved. I never started this process thinking, oh, I'd like to build a local business and then, hopefully it'll grow over time and, we can get bigger and bigger. From the very beginning, I started Wellness Water Company as a nationwide project. And the reason was I discovered and I realized that the water quality in every single state, in every city was just as bad. It wasn't a Flint, Michigan issue. It wasn't a Detroit issue. It wasn't a New Orleans, Louisiana issue. It was a nationwide pandemic that very few people were even aware of. So once I realized that, I said, this is a massive need and this industry is highly underserved. When I looked around the industry, I saw just 2 or 3 nationwide players, and then I saw a handful of regional players, and then I saw a whole bunch of mom and pops that were mostly plumbing companies that would just install a water softener. They might even install some type of filtration system, but they didn't really know much about water chemistry or water quality or ionization or ion exchange or uh, you know, TDS or electroconductivity. They don't know about that. They don't know that pH can throw everything off. So if you're treating well water and you put a softener in, but the pH is too low, not going to help, not going to work. You're going to have problems. So the quote unquote competition was very minimal. The market, as I estimated at the time, was a $65 billion market over the next 5 to 10 years. Now it's outpacing that. Not to my surprise, it's outpacing it. And you have a market where it's literally like, I think at the time it was 2% saturation. I'm sure by now it's probably up to maybe 3, 4%, maybe 5% saturation. Even if it was at 10% saturation, we have 90% of the market to serve. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. And all of these other companies are competing on price. They're what's referred to as value brands. Value brands don't mean value in the way we were discussing it earlier. Value brands mean cheap, mean affordable. So they're all competing on price, which is awesome because that's the last game I ever want to play in business is competing on price. You end up cutting your nose off to spite your face, your margins get too low, and you go out of business. And that's what happens to probably 98, 99% of companies that enter this industry and try to compete on price because they can't outperform the Culligans of the world as far as marketing. They don't have multi-million-dollar monthly marketing budgets. They don't have the cash reserves to go out and acquire companies and grow through acquisitions. They don't have that. So they're competing against a giant. So anyway, I don't want to get too far off the scale there. This is a great book, Tao Te Ching. Also, Letting Go by Dr. David H. Hawkins. He is a medical doctor, MD, PhD. I don't know if you can see this with my screen on, but it's called Letting Go, and you can get it on Audible. I don't do well reading comprehension. Some people do, some people don't. But it's called Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender, David R. Hawkins, MD, PhD. So he's got a PhD as well. This is the second most impactful book I've ever read in my life. This has had more of an impact in my life than anything else besides The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. If you haven't listened to that, definitely a must listen to. And if you're an aspiring business owner or entrepreneur, I have to always recommend Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And if you're just getting started in sales and you're young and you're just trying to figure out, hey, what's most important for me to learn or do right now, start out with Dr. Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That is a very good book to read. It's very easy, it's very quick, simple, and the mindset, you can anchor it like that. So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Dr. Stephen Covey. So one of the principles he shares is beginning with the end in mind. No matter what we do, we should always begin with the end in mind. Okay? Let's see what happened here. So beginning with the end in mind in sales basically means we have to figure out what is our objective. What do we hope to be the end result of this particular effort that we're making? Sorry, let me stop this real quick. So you get the end in mind, and then once you have the end in mind, you reverse engineer it. You say, okay, if this is where I want to end up, what do I need to do to get there? And if you don't know what you need to do to get there, ask somebody who's an expert in the industry, or even check with ChatGPT or Grok. You'd be shocked at how much you can learn just by using AI. I love it when people say like, well, you can't really trust AI, you know, um, it may not be accurate, right? And they may be right, but so far it's been accurate on everything that I've looked up when I've cross-referenced it. And I tell people, why would I trust the opinion of one doctor when I can have the opinion of all doctors in the world blended together all at one time to then determine what is the most probable outcome for my situation? What's more powerful, a single person's viewpoint or millions of brilliant people? Because ChatGPT and AI like that, they're compiling all of that data, all the medical journals, all information and information that's been put out there by all medical doctors. And it's using highly advanced quantum computing now to give us results in seconds. Literally in seconds, we have results. So this is very, very powerful. And the people that are not using it, the people that are not investing in it right now are going to be completely left behind. Completely. They'll still be out there saying things like, yeah, I think the percentages of winning the lottery are like 1 in maybe 200 million or something like that. And I'm like, okay, what's the percentage of, or I just speak it. What's the percentage that people, what's the odds that somebody will win the lottery? And they'll say, 1 in 300 million in the United States, whatever it is. And now I know the right answer. So I just look at that person and just say, I just looked it up. It's actually 1 in 300 million. Can you believe that? And that person's like, oh, really? God, how did you find that out so fast? Oh, I'm using Grok, What's that? Well, it's like ChatGPT, like artificial intelligence. Oh, yeah, I don't really know much about that. So I'm like, I'll send you the app. That's all I'm going to do is send them the app. Okay. But the days of people guessing at what they think is right and the days of people giving advice on things that they think they know about, those days are over. Everyone that's using AI is cross-checking everything. We're not taking people's word for it anymore, unless we already know they're established expert. Even then, we're probably going to cross-check it. So if you're not using some form of ChatGPT or AI, I highly encourage you to do that. And I highly encourage you also to explore things in it because it activates the creative mind. It gives you almost unlimited potential, you know? And there's a lot of other ways I can tell you to leverage it. That's not what this is about right now, but we can talk about that at another time. Does anybody have any questions before we move on?
I'm all good.
I'm all good as well.
No questions.
Excellent. All right. Right. Or we could just move to one of those blue zones in the indigenous areas.
Yeah,
Live off the grid, but be able to bathe and drink in perfectly alkaline water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So anyway, great. Okay. Let me pull this up here and I'll give you an idea of what we have to look at.
Great.
All right, let's. By the way, I just mentioned blue zones there. I only mentioned that the way I did because I kind of thought that he would probably know what blue zones were. But just for everybody else to know, blue zones are 7 regions that were identified throughout the world where a lot of the population, the majority, over 50%, were living beyond 100 years old, disease free. And they were they were way out, they were huge outliers. They were way down the spectrum on longevity, but not just longevity, also quality of life. And so there were some doctors that studied and scientists that went and studied and interviewed these people and learned all they could about them. And they put everything together. And what they discovered as these communities had several things in common. One of them was that they didn't leave. So when people grew up, rather than like moving away, most of the people, the residents, the younger people, they stayed in the villages. And they had a high reverence for the older generation. And they put them on a pedestal and they learned from their wisdom, which created a lot less pain for them in their life. Rather than making mistakes, they followed those that had already made the mistakes and could show them a different way. They also had very unique foods that they ate, meaning it's not anything that we couldn't get now. It's just that it wasn't like an American diet, so to speak. Some of it was similar, but a lot of it was stuff that we just don't eat in America. Um, and there were a couple other factors, but one of the factors was that each of those indigenous populations had a water source that was high alkaline, meaning it was higher than like 8.5. It's what they kind of consider high alkaline. Our drinking system remineralizes water, which drives the alkalinity up to 9.5. So 9.5 pH, all right? And just for those that don't know real quick, pH scale, 0 is completely acidic, 14 is totally alkaline, 7 is neutral. Tap water is usually between 6.8, slightly acidic, and maybe 8.5. Mostly it's 6.8 to like 7.3 in the majority of places in the United States. For showering purposes, as long as it's north of 7.0, it's fine. For drinking purposes, it's really important that that pH is elevated. And it's highly hydrogenated water. So think like H3O, for example. The extra hydrogen molecules in the water help to get rid of or reduce free radicals in the cells. Free radicals cause oxidative stress in the cells. It's a part of what causes aging. And the minerals that we put in it, like calcium and magnesium, magnesium is being called the miracle mineral now. We really can't get enough of these in our diet because the foods that we eat have been depleted of these minerals. So being able to have a healthy dose of those essential nutrients every time we drink a glass of water is amazing. It allows for up to 100% bioavailability of the nutrients contained in the water as opposed to a supplement or a pill where you might only get like 40% or 50% or 60, 70. At the highest, you might get 80% bioavailability. The rest of it is excreted out as waste. So our drinking system provides that value. And not only does it have the right pH, not only does it have the right remineralization, those things also make the water taste great. So if you've ever had Fiji water, easiest way I can explain it, it's smooth like Fiji water. So it tastes a lot like Fiji water. And you can see the minerals. If you hold the glass up in the light, you can see the minerals sparkling in the glass. So the difference between drinking that water on a daily basis versus drinking any other type of water is astronomical. Even bottled water, even if they bottle it at a higher pH, usually after it sits on the shelf for a while, the pH drops closer to neutral. So when you drink it, you're not really drinking that high alkaline pH water that it was when it came out of the plant. Plus, you have microplastics, a lot of other things that you have BPAs, And of course, if you're drinking tap water, then, you might, we have to be very careful about claims we make. So this is not any type of claim. And I have no medical data that I can provide you that will give you an exact comparison, but it's about drinking tap water is about like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Like it's absurd. Like as one example, I met a lady in Birmingham, Alabama, who was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. She was a marathon runner. She had never smoked a cigarette in her life. She hadn't smoked anything in her life, and she had never lived with anybody that was a smoker. But all of a sudden, she's got stage 4 lung cancer. She said, Ryan, the reason I called you was because you were referred to me by one of my neighbors. But the bigger reason is that I've been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and the doctors can't figure out what caused it. To my knowledge, I haven't been exposed to any chemical spills or any type of asbestos, mesothelioma, all these things. I have no idea. I've been healthy all my life. I eat right. I'm a marathon runner. They couldn't explain it. And finally, after doing tremendous amounts of research, I believe the water is what caused me to develop this cancer. That's what she said. Not my words, her words. And I said, well, I'm really sorry to hear, about your diagnosis, but I'm glad you're not letting it keep you down and you're trying to move past it and, conquer this. And, I thanked her for her honesty and transparency. And I'm embarrassed to say I don't know whatever came of that lady. I don't. I probably need to like reach out and find out, but I never personally heard from her again. I was so busy building the business. It wasn't something I followed up on. I should have. Um, but I never got any bad news, right? So, worst case scenario, it didn't help her, but it was still healthy water, right? But a lot of people are starting to correlate uh, what's in their water with what type of health issues they're having. And that awareness is going up considerably now because there's attorneys like Morgan and Morgan, for example, one of the largest law firms in the United States, that are now hammering social media with ads that say, have you or a loved one ever been in contact with water that may contain these contaminants? And it lists out like 10, 15 different contaminants. And it says, if so, you may have a claim. Have you experienced or has a loved one experienced any of these symptoms? And it's got like, kidney cancer, liver cancer, colon cancer, it lists all these illnesses out, thyroid cancer, accelerated puberty, liver and enzyme disorders, it's just a huge list. And then they say, you may not even realize this stuff is in your water. And they also include PFAS and PFOS, which have now become trigger words. This is where the real traction has come in the industry, is people focused on what they call forever chemicals. These are perfluorinated chemicals that are abbreviated like PFAS and PFOS. And they call them forever chemicals because the body can't eliminate them effectively. So they get lodged in our tissues and our cells. Usually they're absorbed by microplastics. They act like time release capsules, and they're just building up what we call bioaccumulation of toxicity in the body. So you have acute exposure, then you have long-term compound exposure. And with that long-term compound exposure, for instance, every time we take a shower and we're absorbing these things through our skin, with that and with drinking or drinking water, you have what's called bioaccumulation, where these toxins build up in your system and it becomes more and more difficult for your body to handle it. And even things like chronic sinusitis, a lot of people can't figure out where that's coming from. Our founding medical advisor, Dr. Tarpey, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, was able to identify, at least in his practice, that a lot of the issues with sinusitis had to do with a suppressed immune system, a weakened immune system. And the way to improve the immune system is simply to provide more nutrients to it, to the body. and the body will automatically build its immune system. You just have to have plenty of leafy green vegetables. You want to drink good water, obviously, exercise 30 minutes a day on a walk. All of these things help to uh, improve the immune system. If the immune system is where it needs to be, it has the ability to fight off disease and infection. And the dots that Dr. Tarpey connected were every time we get into the shower and inhale chlorine vapors or chloramine vapors, the steam from the shower is creating the chlorine gas and the chloramine gas, which ironically is how they put it in the water in the first place, through gas. They inject gas. They don't just sit there and dump chlorine powder in there or tablets. It's too much water. So he realized that when you inhale these chloramine vapors, it causes the immune system to be suppressed. It messes with the natural biome in the system, and it causes the immune system to become compromised. And when the immune system is suppressed, it creates all types of issues in the body. Anything from inflammation to even things like anxiety, fear, depression, stress, all of that. But it definitely, how do I say this? It definitely, according to Dr. Tarpey, had a correlation at minimum to chronic sinusitis that couldn't be explained with any other explanation. They call it like idiopathic or idiosomatic. I can't remember the term, but basically it means doctors can't figure out what's causing it, you know. And the irony of all of this is when I was growing up, one of the things that the adults would say in the neighborhood, when all of a sudden we had 3, 4, 5 neighbors get cancer right in a row, they would just laugh and they'd say, it's terrible. It must be in the water. Gosh, it must be in the water. It's happening to everybody. So they didn't realize back then how right they may have been, right? So anyway, here we go. I digress. Any questions before we move on? Let's see. Roughly how big is the home in Utah?
So it's a larger home. It's 4,300 square feet, but it's just going to be my wife and I for now. I mean, we're hoping to start a family, so we want to future proof it. But for now, it's like, yeah, it's just the two of us. It's a 5 bedroom, 3.5 bath. Um, Going from about 600 square feet here, it's going to be a bit of a shock, but it's pretty amazing. We both work in tech here in San Francisco, and like the cost of living in San Francisco is very high, but we both have remote options, and so working remote in our same jobs with the same pay, even affording a house like that, a beautiful home in Heber, it like that pales in comparison to what the costs are in the Bay Area. So we feel very privileged to have the opportunity to move into that as our first home.
Man, that's fantastic. Yeah, like you started in the most expensive environment, there.
Yeah.
My sister lives in Silicon Valley in what's the name of that town? Not Sunnyvale.
There's like Fremont, San Jose, Palo Alto, Menlo Park. Yeah.
It just moved. It's south of Palo Alto.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's southwest of the southwest side of the bay. And then I have a dear friend who's actually our director of sales, Paul Dachauer. Paul lives in Marin County on San Anselmo area north of.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I
We
spent.
we looked up there. That was actually we all of our family is here in the Bay Area, so we were both like we wanted to stay here. And the North Bay is beautiful in nature. It's just incredible. It's just so expensive. So,
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And yeah, so they just moved, and that's why I was thinking about the cost when you were talking about it. Like, wow,
yeah,
it is so high. Yeah, so and Utah is wonderful. I mean, we were in Park City last year.
nice.
I really wanted to go to Ogden, but we didn't make it over there. But yeah, Utah is a wonderful choice, and it's an easy in, easy out through the airports. And I don't know if you go through Salt Lake, I guess, but
Yeah.
at any rate, man. Well, congratulations on your blessings, and just where you are. So we need
Thank you.
We need more people like you on the planet, and we also need more people like you using ChatGPT every day because we're programming it right with our input.
Yeah, exactly.
We want the smart people to be the ones to train it. So yeah, we need to hurry up and get a lot of love in there so that they can't put fear. It takes over the AI
You're
system.
right.
AI is like, no, that's not right. I've already had 51% of the population tell me that love is better.
Well said.
I mean, like we really got to be careful because we are kind of training, those artificial intelligence. So my dad is our current chief medical advisor. My dad has over 40 years of experience in the medical field. He's an OBGYN. He's delivered over 5,000 children, and he's really passionate about protecting pregnant women and small children. Yes, especially small children, because when they're born, right, we don't take them and say, okay, go take a shower. We carefully put them in like a little bassinet thing and we submerge them, right? Hit their whole little bodies in the water and we're bathing them. And unknowingly, they're absorbing a lot of toxins, chlorine being one of them, chloramines, TTHMs, trihalomethanes, which really trihalomethanes is just a big conglomerate of chlorination disinfection byproducts. So domobichloromethane, dichloromethane, then you've got also haloacetic acids. They're not haleo, that's how I say them wrong. It's haloacetic acids. And then you've got all those organics, PFOAs, PFOS. Then you've got on the other side your metals, regular metals, heavy metals, radioactive metals, radium-226, 228. You've got cadmium, barium, lead, beryllium, arsenic, uranium, which is naturally occurring in some places. Really, and it's naturally occurring everywhere. Like it's not something people are putting in the water.
Yeah. We use the EWG for like our water report. Are you familiar?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're very familiar with these things, yeah. So,
for sure. Yeah, and again, it's shocking in San Francisco, but that's most major cities. But for us, it's always disappointing where you move to Heber, and you're right, it's natural, but like the arsenic levels are incredibly high, and it's like I don't know how this is legal, but
right.
See that the EWG has actually like their own standards, and then so even if the arsenic was 40 times their standard, but still below the legal limit, like something's broken there, in my opinion.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There is something broken there. And, it's funny you bring up arsenic like that. I had a guy recently ask me what level of arsenic was acceptable. By the way, if you see me rocking back and forth, I've got a really bad back, so I stand at a stand-up desk, and it helps. Helps to kind of alleviate pressure, but just no, I'm not. I'm aware that I'm doing it.
Okay.
So arsenic is, thank you. Arsenic, fortunately for starters, is not readily absorbed by the skin.
Right.
And catalytic carbon has the ability to eliminate roughly 60 to 70% of arsenic. And the remaining arsenic can be picked up by your RO for drinking purposes. So the main concern with arsenic is oral consumption. But even little ones, they'll drink bath water. So
totally.
You want, like you said, RO, whole house RO would be the purest that you could possibly get the water. But there's a whole host of challenges with that.
Yeah.
And it requires a lot of maintenance, takes up a lot of space, and there's a lot that can get messed up that has to be constantly monitored.
Yeah, understood. And by the way, those chlorine byproducts like the TTHMs or whatnot, like those are the ones that we had pinpointed as our biggest concern area, specifically because of what happens when they're heated underwater in a shower. And my wife loves to take baths too, and I see I totally hear you. Like, I think if it's a problem for children, it's a problem for everyone. We just, we trivialize it or minimize it, or we're cavalier about it. And like, that's just not how we want to operate. And I just want to say overall, I just appreciate that you all and you have a clear understanding of these things and the terms and the technical obfuscation of it, right? Like, there's a level of knowledge we've been looking for that I think we're finding here, which is already giving me a lot more confidence in whatever you're going to offer.
Good, man. I'm so happy to hear that. Like, that's our goal, right out of the gate. And you're spot on about everything. And inhalation of chloramine gas is devastating.
Yeah.
And it's causing all kinds of things that people, even like chronic sinusitis, where they what is it called, idiosyncratic or something apathic, idiopathic, where they can't figure out what the cause is. They just know, hey, this guy's got repeated sinus infections, and they don't know why. And we believe a potential reason could be the inhalation of chloramine gases in the shower, which is then getting in and killing the healthy bacteria in the gut, which is weakening the immune system systematically.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, you have bioaccumulation. And I think that's a term that people need to start using a lot, is bioaccumulation. Because people say, well, I've been showering in the water for 50 years. It hasn't killed me yet. Well, I understand. We get it. And we're not saying it will. We're just saying that there are toxins in the water that are absorbed by the skin, by the lungs, and through consumption. And some of these toxins are cancer-causing agents. And we have a way to protect you from it. And there's a thing called bioaccumulation, where these things build up in your system more and more over time, especially these forever chemicals, the perfluorinated chemicals. And then people, that's our biggest challenge, is getting them to understand that core concept. And then you're right, babies are organ. So they put chlorine in the water. I'm going to answer your question about how can they get away with this. They put chlorine in the water to shock it, right? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to shock it like a swimming pool. They're trying to kill any micro living organisms that are present in the water. The problem is we're living organisms too. We're just not micro living organisms. We're macro living organisms. So what's going to kill a microorganism on impact is going to take much more to kill a macroorganism, right?
Right.
So, but over time we have this bioaccumulation, and then so our children are smaller organisms. They're affected more than we are. And then as we go older, we get this bioaccumulation. So acutely, children are more susceptible, but over time, it's all chronic, bioaccumulation of toxins. So
yeah, I agree. I think it's it's the accumulation over time. I think it's nebulous because it's hard to see the side effects immediately, and because it's over time, it's also impossible to tie it back to one singular thing. But my thesis also is that it's our unhealth is from toxic buildup. Therefore, not only do we need to prevent the accumulation of toxins, but also another key aspect, which I think water can be a big part of, good water, is the detoxification of toxins as well, as much as is possible. So we will consistently go through parasite cleanses annually. We'll go through a liver and a kidney cleanse annually, right? Like Dr. Hulda Clark is a pioneer in the herbal approach to that. So yeah, I mean, this again just very much resonates, and it's so clear to me. And so when we raise kids, like, we want to raise them in an environment that neither my wife nor I had the opportunity to have, right? And just to do it the right way, by which we have proven for ourselves, for the kids, to give them the best chance of health.
Man, that's beautiful. I heard everything you said, but I want to go back to the name of the doctor. I want to get that doctor's name.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Where's my notebook at? Here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, because it didn't ring a bell right off the bat, and so she a holistic doctor? Or?
Yeah, she's a holistic doctor and herbalist. I can give you her website too. It's where I order all my stuff from. She just puts together the most fantastic like herbal cleanses, which is it's so powerful for me.
Okay, I'm ready whenever you're.
Here, and I'll put this in the chat as well. But it's Hulda, Hulda Clark, Dr. Hulda Clark. I think so, at least. I can double check.
I mean, it's amazing the
You're muted.
Thank you so much. If y'all ever see me get quiet like that, just know I probably left myself on mute. I appreciate it. What I wanted to say is that I'm going to go ahead and stop the meeting now. At least I'm going to stop the recording. And then if anybody, we've kind of hit our mark here at 4 o'clock. But if there's anybody that can still stay on, I'll continue with part 2. This is going to be kind of part 1 of a series of videos that I'm going to do utilizing this consultation. And then after we go through all of that, I'll be using my book to follow basically chapter by chapter, just take us through the process. So if anybody does need to jump off, feel free to do so. Let me go ahead and stop the recording here.